So I wanted to kind of shift here to talking about social justice warriors, or SJWs as they're called. And I wanted to kind of talk about this because I feel like there's been a very big, what I would call like sort of shift or change in your channel. I feel like it really went from being a lot of, I would say before Bernie Sanders and along like a while ago, I feel like years ago, I feel like you really did focus a lot on politics and specifically politics. But I feel
Hmm.
like as of somewhat recently, in the past, like I would say, like maybe a year or two, I feel like you've made a lot of like anti-SJW videos, anti-SJW videos, and I feel like it's sort of become focused on that. And I was just curious as to why the majority of videos went from being about politics to just being sort of anti-SJW, whether it be responses to BuzzFeed or whatever other kind of stuff like that.
I mean, one of the things you have to understand about my point of view on SJWs is I'm not just looking at SJWs as here's something that I think is stupid that's being said. Therefore, I want to correct it because a lot of stupid stuff happens in this country. A lot of stupid things are said from a lot of different viewpoints.
Yeah.
And and what you find stupid is largely subjective. There's people watching this, saying, "Oh, what an idiot who's saying, saying this stuff." But to me, I mean, I just feel like, and I feel like I'm part of it too. Honestly, like I think the first big anti-SJW video on YouTube ever, and maybe I'm wrong about this, maybe this is my own ego talking, but I believe that the first anti-SJW video to get big on YouTube was a video I made in 2011 called "It's Only Sexist When Men Do It." It was a response to a TV show, I forget the name of, where Sharon Osbourne, Ozzy Osbourne's wife, was one of the hosts,
Mhm.
and it was like kind of the View ripoff.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
and some woman somewhere had chopped her husband's penis off and stuffed it in a garbage disposal,
Wow.
and the whole panel was laughing about it and just thought it was the greatest thing,
Oh
and
no.
I was just like, this is messed up. And a lot of people misinterpret that video because what I said in the video was, if a dude had chopped off his wife's tits and thrown them in the garbage disposal, no one would be laughing. Anyone who was laughing would be looked at as a reprehensible fucking
Yeah.
creep.
Yes.
And so I said, enough with this double standard. If either it's okay to joke about both or it's not okay to joke about either. And I mean, when I say okay, I don't mean in terms of actual censorship. I just mean in terms of public reaction.
Okay.
So I feel like that video kind of started a lot of this anti-SJW stuff. Now, I don't know if it's I'd had influences. Part of what I was saying there was influenced by me checking out men's rights subreddits. Part of that was influenced by a stand-up routine that Bill Maher did in 2003, I think, on his HBO special. I think it was called I can't remember the name of the special, but he did this rant on feminism towards the end of the special. And so that kind of got my gears turning, and I kind of expanded on what he did. I didn't steal his bit, but I did a bit that expanded on some of the concepts that he did. And I did it on YouTube, and it was a big hit. It was on the front page of Reddit. All kinds of people were talking about it. It was a huge discussion piece. And I feel like after that, a lot of people say, hey, there's a commercial viability to this anti-SJW content. And that attracted a lot of people. And over the course of the last few years, I've seen it blow up in ways that I never would have imagined. I saw, even like a lot of the rhetoric that people use to support Trump
Yeah.
was all about he's the perfect foil for these fucking SJWs.
Oh.
And it became, very much SJW became sort of a catch-all term for all liberals. And so
Yeah.
then it became, oh, it's liberals doing this. The distinction between you're a liberal and you're an SJW vanished. And I'm a liberal and I'm anti-SJW. And I don't want to say I started it, but I broke new ground for it for sure. And now I've watched it, something that I kind of created on some level or participated in the early stages, at least, kind of turn on me to where now it's being used by right-wing demagogues who have no subtlety in their criticism. The nature of my criticism of SJWs has always been that, a lot of what you're doing is devaluing certain terms and phrases. I'll give you an example. There's lots of YouTube channels on YouTube right now that are, openly. I guess I don't want to use the word racist because I don't want to piss certain people off, but they're certainly racially antagonistic in a very open way that you didn't see just a few years ago.
So on the kind of state of, I guess what I would say, like the state of what I would call the anti-SJW community, because I would say it's almost like, I would personally call it a cesspool, because it's almost like there's all of these different channels making all of these different videos, constantly saying the same thing over and over again. And you're kind of saying you almost pioneered it to an extent. I was curious as to what your thoughts are on that community. Do you consider yourself a part of it? Did you ever consider yourself a part of it? Do you have any regrets?
I don't regret, if I open the doors for something, or I help to open the doors for something, because I certainly don't want to act like this is all me and I created this. I don't want anyone to come away with that impression of me as being super egomaniacal in that way. But, I did help with it. And as far as I know, one of the first big hit videos on YouTube was that one that did the anti-SJW thing, even though we weren't even really using the term at that time. Okay. But it was certainly the
What year was this? When was this exactly?
2011.
Oh, way back then.
Yes.
Okay, so what I'm talking about is kind of more like in the past, like 2-3 years, I would say.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying that you can there's a causal chain that leads from a lot of these channels that exist now back to where I made that video, and then of course you can take the causal chain back further to the things that inspired me to do it, and I'm sure that other those people had their own inspirations and so on and so forth. Okay. So you could follow a causal chain back. I'm just saying that a link in that chain is me making that video and me focusing on that kind of content for a while. But I mean, the thing about SJWs is I feel like a lot of what they've done has enabled the right wing to.
Yeah. Would you say you took part in that at all? Because I feel like your channel had a lot of anti-SJW videos.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, I made it my bread and butter for a long time, and I still use it. But I think it's important to, first of all, criticize SJWs from a liberal perspective to show people that this is not – look, it's not just conservatives who find this ridiculous. Just because you identify with not liking this stuff is not in and of itself what liberalism is about. It's a distraction.
Right. So, like, I would point to kind of the example of, like, I'm sure you know Kyle Kalinske, of how
friend of mine.
Yeah, he's someone who's an anti-SJW, but he's, a very strong liberal. But
I love the fact that he does that. I mean, he does it from even a more concretely progressive position than I do.
Yeah.
So that's definitely good for people to see. I like that, people can go to his channel. They can see that he is clearly a very left-wing guy, but also extremely critical of not all social justice as a concept, but the concept of these social justice warriors he's critical of. And I think it's important for people to see that because, there's a narrative that's being pushed by the right wing that SJWs and liberals are one and the same, and it just isn't so. I think that a lot of the behaviors that you now see exhibited in the right wing are things that I initially criticized about SJWs. It's about censoring opposition, deplatforming opposition. A lot of these tactics that I criticize SJWs for, these people on the right now use, all while claiming to be champions of freedom of speech. And as far as I could tell, there's not a whole lot of champions of freedom of speech on either side right now.
That's true. So what I was just kind of curious about is, I wouldn't consider Kyle an anti-SJW YouTuber, or definitely not part of the anti-SJW community, but he's definitely sort of concretely laid down his stance on that. But he doesn't really just constantly make videos about I was kind of curious as to why you chose to kind of make that, as you said, your bread and butter instead of sort of sticking with what you did in the past, which is more sort of political videos or, whether it be religion videos.
Well, I started off doing atheist content.
Yeah.
And to me, all of my content has a running theme throughout it. Whether I'm taking on Christianity, Islam, and other religious traditions like I did in the early part of my career, or whether I'm taking on right-wing politics like I did a few years back, or whether I'm taking on SJWs like I have been for the last few years, or whatever. The running theme is always me standing up against what I perceive to be stupid.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's a very subjective thing what someone considers to be stupid. Usually it just means things I don't agree with. But yeah, I mean, that's been the running theme of my channel. It's always been about going after specific groups of people, not because of anything other than the strange ideologies that they attach themselves to. And always the approach I typically take is I want to deconstruct the ideology that they've built up. I'm not really, I might throw in a personal insult or something here and there, but the driving force behind the content that I've always made has been, let's take a look at what people think, what they believe, what prepackaged system of thought they've fallen into, and let's, dismantle it, and let's see how it works, and let's see why it doesn't work. Honestly, I just don't know where to go from where I'm at now. I kind of feel like the anti-SJW stuff is a bit old, is a bit played out.
So you've gotten tired of it at this point as well.
Every once in a while I'll find something. Like I found these really preposterous lists of 100 things white people need to do to, make people of color more comfortable, and 100 things that men need to do to make women more comfortable, and I found those
too easy. Like when you make videos about that, like, isn't that just so dumb that you just feel like why am I even made? Like, this is like, honestly, it's like,
well,
a joke.
Maybe it is, but I take people very seriously. I might be a misanthrope, but I do have a baseline respect for people and what they believe. And I hate to see people who are, someone who wrote that list really believes what it says. Look, in fairness, both of the lists contain some stuff I agreed with, but the vast majority of it was really condescending, unreasonable, contradictory, and yeah, it is kind of an easy target, but how many people are really going to go give it its due, though? How many people are really going to go and take it apart piece by piece and really lay out the groundwork for why it's so preposterous, why it's so wrong? Because it's easy to have that visceral gut reaction of, oh man, that's just ugh. But I think there is some value in actually elucidating, here's the full range of how this can be criticized, at least the full range of how I can criticize this from my worldview and my vantage point.
Okay. So talking about anti-SJWs, I wanted to sort of jump.
Hold on. To get more to the heart of your question, though.
Go ahead. Sure.
I just don't know where to go from here, because I feel like, okay, I've said what I need to say on religion. I've said what I need to say on politics. I've said what I need to say on SJWs and all of this culture of, safe spaces and sensitivity and whatever else. But I just don't know where I go from here. I don't know what the next theme I tackle will be.